All right. Good evening. We're here and we're going to do a candidate forum. And my name's Linda Strain, and I am the Washington County Chair for the Washington County Democrats. And anyway, we're going to talk with our city council candidates today and also our school board candidate. And we've, for all of those who are in a contested race. So, thank you. Okay. You've got 3 minutes, and we'll start. Do you want to start, Susan?
Sure.
Okay, how do they know it's 3 minutes?
Okay, how do we know it's 3 minutes? Bob.
2.5 minutes,
Oh.
and then Barbara's pampered chef, irritating beep, beep, beep at 3.
Okay. Yes. And could we also introduce Margie, who is running, she's running uncontested.
Yeah.
But, yes.
Yes, thank you. I'm Marg Chipman, and I'm running uncontested for the 2-year term to which I was appointed by the mayor. So I've already got a couple of meetings under my belt, but I don't want to take up any of the valuable time that you folks need to question these folks. And so I will see you all at the next city council meeting.
Thank you, Margie. Okay. We're going to start off with Susan McCoy.
Hi. Well, my background, I was born in the Sun Valley Lodge, was raised in Haley, married my husband in Haley. We have 2 children. I was a real estate broker for well, by the end, about 25 years. I was on the city, well, I was on the city planning and zoning. I became chairman. Prior to me being on the planning and zoning, we had Robert McCullough come to town, and he bought a large acreage. He's the one who developed McCullough Chainsaw and Lake Havasu, bought the London Bridge. He was giving the city a sewer plant. He was building a sewer plant for his new city that he was doing, large well. And you know, extremely wealthy man, what could go wrong? Well, he died, and everything was a mess out there. So we learned from that the city really needs to protect themselves. Have bonds so that projects can be finished if something happens to the developer. And while I was chairman, we had 2 significant developments come in. One of them actually bought us a fire truck. And so I think that I have a lot of knowledge that I can help the city because we're going to grow. I mean, obviously we have 2 subdivisions out here. You know, Herb mentioned the other day the traffic that those subdivisions are going to cause. Unfortunately, that needed to be done before the subdivision was approved so the subdivider can help fund whatever remediation needs to be done. So I think that I can be very helpful with my background, and I'm not a bench sitter. I will work very hard for the city to promote. Thank you, Bob.
No, 30 seconds more.
Oh, I have 30 seconds. At any rate, I would very much appreciate your vote, and I won't let you down.
Thank you, Susan. Larry Ness.
set up, boss.
Is that better?
Hey, say, this is Barbara's. I wasn't
Oh, I get it.
trained.
I get it.
You better give it to Barbara.
Yeah.
My name is Larry Hogan. For nearly 8 years, it's been my privilege to serve you as a member of the Weiser City Council. I want to thank everyone who has joined us this evening, and I want to thank my fellow candidates for your willingness to serve our citizens. And I also want to thank the Washington County Democrats for hosting us tonight. Although political parties are not directly involved in our city elections, voters still need to make informed decisions and hear from those seeking to represent them. That's what tonight is about, and I appreciate having this opportunity to tell a little about myself and a few things I think. I've worked in the financial services industry all my adult life, currently at D.L. Evans Bank. I'm fortunate to work for an organization who values community service and supports me in serving on the City Council. I'm one of 4 generations of my family who graduated from Weiser High School, and the proudest titles I've ever held are friend, son, brother, uncle, and dad. I want to thank the staff at the City of Weiser for all they do to make our lives better. We can all afford to take the services they provide for us for granted because of their dedication in providing them. Our zoning ordinances provide a basis for the use of properties within our community. They protect the value of our current owners' investment in long-term assets and allow us to safely enjoy our homes and businesses. This ordinance is a long-term solution, and amendments to it should only be considered with long-term objectives in mind. I don't think there's any such thing as the status quo. As a community, we can't afford to keep things just as they are. If we don't get better, we will get worse. If we don't move forward, we will fall back. I think Weiser's best days are ahead of us. There are positive examples of business expansion, the availability of new services for our kids, and improved availability of residential housing happening in our community right now. We need to embrace change as a positive thing for all of us and work together to keep this the great place it is. I think our greatest assets are our children, and far too many of them end up moving away after high school. They are our best hope to maintain the things about our community that we are most proud of, and we need to figure out how to retain more of them. We need to continue to work towards an improved economic environment where our citizens will have more opportunities to make a good living and have a comfortable place to live. I think this can be accomplished without sacrificing our community's character and culture. I thank you again and humbly ask for your support on November 7th.
Okay, Terry Nice.
Hi, and I'm Kerry Nice. I'm running for City Council. A little history about me. I've done almost all of my adult life in public service. Started in 1980 with the Fruitland Fire Department as a volunteer and an EMT. Worked my way up. In 1985, we moved to Weiser because my wife worked at Weiser Memorial, and I went full-time with the ambulance. And also was the first rural EMS unit to achieve the status of paramedic in 1990. And went on to become chief of Weiser 13 years ago. I retired in 2015 or 2021 and served 12 and a half years as chief last. And also developed a 5-lot subdivision on East 12th and Park, so I know how that works. Deputy in 2 different counties, and started Ontario Ambulance Service. Just like I said, I'm just full of public service. I've always been on the recipient end of the city council and the mayor and the clerks. I'd like to be on the other side and help out, have Weiser be the best it could be. So I think I can do a good job for you. I have a lot of common sense, a lot of knowledge with codes and building inspections and fire inspections, and move forward. Thank you.
Andrew.
I'm Andrea Williams, and I am running for Weiser School Board, Zone 1. I grew up in Weiser, along with my husband Brandon. We both graduated from Weiser High School in 1997. We have 3 kids, and so far both of our sons have graduated from Weiser High School, and our daughter is a freshman this year. I've spent almost my entire life in Weiser education. I went to school here from kindergarten through 12th grade. I taught kindergarten for 18 years. And then I'm a parent of students who have been in the school system. I have a bachelor's degree in elementary education and a master's degree in education with an emphasis in creative arts. So I guess you could say I'm pretty passionate about education. I retired from teaching in 2019. It was bittersweet. It wasn't for any negative reason. It was just because I needed to give more time to our family business. And when I left, I always thought, or I always hoped, that I would come back in some way. I didn't know what that would look like, but here I am. I was approached by a couple different people in the community about running, and I first thought, I'm not sure about that. That seems like a job that's above me. It's above my pay grade. But the more I thought about it, I thought, you know, I am passionate about our school system. I think it's been a great place for me. It's been awesome for my kids, and I want to continue to be a part of that. Let's see. I consider it a great district full of wonderful families, amazing teachers, and fantastic leaders. I hope to bring a few new things to the table. I think my experience in the classroom is going to be very valuable for the school board. I also think my current job running 2 businesses can bring a lot as well. I hope to get your vote on November 7th and your support throughout the next 4 years. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Katie Von-Redhorst. I was born and raised here in Weiser as well. Went to school here, graduated in 1995, so now you guys can all do the math and figure out just how old I am. I went to school at BSU, got a bachelor's degree in education, and bachelor's degree in English with an emphasis in writing. Didn't quite finish my teacher credentials, and we'll get back to that in a second. Was already in the banking industry at that point in time, so I just thought, well, heck, I'm making a good living. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. So I spent 20 years in the banking industry, and then I took a little hiatus and went and taught English at the high school. I had to get an alternative certification in order to do that because I didn't finish my student teaching. But it's an amazing thing. If you guys haven't had a chance to go into those classrooms, those kids are amazing people. And they've got great ideas, and they are going to be our leaders eventually. So it's nice to have good people in there to mold those ideas and make sure they stay on the right path. So after that, I got an opportunity to come back into the banking industry, and that's where I'm currently at with Zions Bank for the last 2 years as their branch manager. They're fully supportive of me doing this as well, and love to have as much community involvement as possible. Along the way, I married Bo Von-Redhorst. We've been married for 26 years. We have 2 boys. One is Brody. He graduated from Missouri Valley College and is teaching math back there in Missouri, or Missouri, however you want to say that. He's getting his master's degree, and his hope is to come back this direction. He misses Idaho. He loves Weiser and wants to come back. And then I have Cooper, who is a second-year apprentice for an electrician company here locally, housed out of Payette. So he's doing fabulously and took that different route, that trade route, and it's been an amazing process for him as well. Through all of this, the thing that I have learned the most is that relationships matter. And not only in the teaching industry, but in the banking industry, and just being a nice human being. The best thing that I can do to get along is to try to figure out what makes that person tick. And if we have different views on things or whatever that might be, kind of listening to them, hearing them, and not making any assumptions is probably the best thing that I can do to try to help develop that relationship. So a little bit about me, and I'm interested in the city council because I come from a long line of elected officials, which is weird. And so I know what the time constraints are, and I'll do my best. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Herb Hahn. I'm also a candidate for Weiser City Council. I've been asked why, after living my whole life here, all of a sudden I have interest in serving you on the City Council. It isn't all of a sudden. Weiser's always been my home, always will be. I've been very proud of the fact that Weiser is rated by a study as one of the safest cities in America. We have one of the lowest crime rates of any place in America. I think we have the best rating of any city west of the Mississippi River. So that's speaks a lot for Weiser, speaks a lot for our police department, and it speaks a lot of everybody in Weiser. People like Bob Barber, who have spent his life volunteering in the Scouts. We have hundreds of people volunteering in our schools every day, the library every day. Weiser has the most children active in recreation sports of any team in any town in the valley right now, and it's a ton of coaches to coach soccer, baseball, softball, football, basketball, dance, cheerleading. It's all offered from this rec department at Weiser, and it couldn't work without the Weiser rec department or without the volunteers. So, you know, I think these volunteers are what makes Weiser so great and will continue to make Weiser great. Some of the changes I want to see is I'd like to see our sidewalks that are not complete, that go for a half a block and then don't go for a half a block. I'd like to see them complete, continuous. And that's in the works. The President Council and Mayor has some funding to run a sidewalk from the high school all the way to Memorial Park. Now, I don't know that the funding is complete yet, but it's almost there. I think it's going to happen soon. Also, I think we're going to see upgrades in our playground equipment at the park, and some of that will be playground equipment for all of us old people along with the children. So I'm excited about that. That isn't a done deal yet, but it's on the way. Part of the reason why I haven't been more active in city government along the way is I spent 45 years in the onion industry serving on the Idaho-Oregon Onion Committee, which is a federal marketing order, the Idaho-Oregon Fruit and Vegetable Association, the Rural Fire Department. I also served with my wife as youth group leaders in the community church, Celebrate Recovery, and currently still do jail ministry one night a week. So my plate has been fairly full. I'm down to jail ministry and a few other things, and I have time to serve you very well at Weiser City Council at this point. Thank you.
Well, I'm the outlier here. I am the only one running tonight who isn't from Idaho. I am from California, and I proudly say that because I ran away so fast, I left my husband behind for 18 months. I chose Weiser as my home. And I'm Christina Stanley, and I'm running for City Council. And the reason I'm running for City Council is when I chose Weiser as my home, and Larry can attest to this because he was there, I started attending City Council meetings. And I started watching the council. I started watching the interaction with our mayors and how the process worked. I wasn't really happy with it. There wasn't a lot of communication with the public on what was happening with the meetings. There wasn't a lot of communication and questions when there were votes. Larry, I think you had the only 2 votes I've seen in like 3 years that actually voted against our mayor. Everybody seemed to vote lockstep with our mayor, regardless of what the public had to say. And I'm running tonight because I want to change that. I want an interactive city council. I know we've got Robert's Rules of Orders, we've got open meeting laws, there's things that we can and can't do at the meetings, but we do need to inform the public more. The public needs to be more involved in what's happening in our city. I love Weiser. This has been my city that I chose to live in. For the first time in my life, I feel at home in Weiser. But we also have a population that's probably 50% of the people who are living in Weiser aren't from Weiser. And we need to take that into consideration when we're making decisions for our cities. And Herb, you had mentioned the playground equipment, the sidewalks. We've talked about at other council meetings about the fire departments and a lot of other issues during these forums. I was there for those meetings. Not one of these people was there for those meetings, except Carrie about a year and a half ago. I've been a participant in our city council. If it's only been from the audience, if it's only been from the letters I write after the meetings describing what's happening and informing the citizens of Weiser what's happening. And I think that I would be a good city council member because I've already been there. I've already done the job, except I haven't been officially on the council. And so I'm running for council because I think I can make a difference. And I'm the only council candidate today who, after running and not winning the last time, still attended meetings. And I'm wondering how many of these people will do the same. Thank you. Christina Stanley. I'm running for council.
Okay, and this is a city council question. What will you do to promote orderly growth in Weiser? And I don't know if we want to start
Start
with...
at one end.
Yeah, start at one end. And so Christina?
Orderly growth. We've had a little bit of an excessive growth with these subdivisions where we've got 400 homes going in on the west side that will take up about 25% of all city services. Well, 50% of what's left. We've got 50% of our city services available for new development. And with the increase of 25% homes, we're down to 25% of city services. We need orderly growth by infill. We need to take care of these vacant lots, these abandoned buildings, these historic buildings that people don't want to see go because they've got historical value, but they're falling down around us and they're not adding any value to our community. That's where we need to start with our growth. And that's where we need to manage it. We need to start with within, take care of that. The highway, that's not going to do anything for the basic businesses in downtown Weiser because people are going to stop, they're going to get their gas, they're going to get their groceries, they're going to go to whatever fast food restaurants there, and then they're going to go up the road. But if we can do something on the inside of Weiser to make it more attractive and take care of what we have here and make sure that we don't have a blighted community, because when you go down Main Street or State Street, as we call it here, you see a business, a blighted building, a business, a blighted building, a business, a blighted building. So how many blighted buildings are people going to go by before they just turn around and leave our downtown area? So we need to take care of what we have here to manage growth. And I think once we take care of our downtown, our businesses, get some revenue to the city that way, the outside growth will come through the renovation of the old homes, the development of vacant lots, without having to do 400 cracker box houses on the outskirts of town.
Excuse me, but interrupt. Is there a time limit on the responses?
It
Should be a minute.
A minute?
Yeah, minute.
Minute? Okay.
Was I a minute? I was a minute, right?
I'm gonna do a minute and a half.
Okay,
Okay?
that'd be perfect. Okay.
You're up next.
Okay, you're up next.
Okay, so I believe there was maybe two parts of that. We want to promote growth in Weiser and regulate it or make sure that it's orderly.
What will you do to promote orderly growth in Weiser?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, orderly growth has to go along with our zoning and planning and our contingency plan. Our contingency plan is a plan that's put together by members of the public, zoning and planning committee, and the city council. I believe here in a few weeks that there's a plan to revisit the contingency plan for the members of the city council so they can learn how to use it better and give us a little more knowledge on it so that we we take care of this growth, that we don't outgrow what we have to offer. It would be nice to see the kind of businesses come into Weiser that give back to Weiser. The businesses that sponsor Little League football, Little League basketball, Little soccer, that give back to our community, and not the big ones that send the money to the corporate office and we don't see it again. So yeah, that's the kind of growth. Promoting it, I'm not sure how we promote it. I think there has to be a need for each service. And I spend a lot of time thinking about the empty buildings downtown. What could you put in that building that's a need for the people of Weiser? A lot of us are older. Could it be somebody that helps with our computer problems?
Your insurance.
What's that?
Your insurance.
Our insurance, yeah. So anyway, I'd like to see businesses that give back to Weiser and keep it here in our community.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that the best way that we can promote orderly growth is to be ready for it. So we've got to make sure that we have the infrastructure involved that can support anything going forward. There's no sense in adding a whole bunch of stuff if we don't have a sewer system that's going to allow us to work that properly. Or if we don't have a water treatment department plant that is up and functioning to the highest level. So I think that's how you do it. The other thing that the city council can do is to promote the Chamber of Commerce. The chamber is vital to the downtown and to making sure that there's businesses that are running and to kind of do promotions to help support those. And I kind of think it's the city's job to kind of get out of the way of the chamber and let them do that to the best of their ability, and everybody will be happy. Thank you.
Orderly growth, it's a touchy subject. I agree with everybody that's gone before me. It is all how we develop our infrastructures, what the capacity and what they're not capacity of. Goes back to roads, neighborhoods. I could contest when I did my 5-lot subdivision in 06, there was less than 5 lots buildable in Weiser at that time, and I sold my 12 lots in 3 years, 4 years, and other developers have done it on the East 9th and that, and they go fast because we don't have a lot of that. Renovating downtown buildings are awful hard because it imposes new fire codes, and if there's a structure that's already been on the historical society, they are very, very hard to renovate to current standards because you deal with an old standard and a new standard. And that's in building and fire code. And your insurance companies go nuts sometimes in that. So downtown promotions is hard because everybody wants a new building. They've already been trained that it's easier to tear down an old building and reconstruct a new one. So we just got to educate everybody and I'm sorry, but sometimes you got to give incentives to help out, So that's about all I can say about it. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. There are a couple things that the city can do to promote orderly growth. Number one is to lean on zoning laws that are already in place. Make sure everybody's playing by the same rules. We actually do have an economic development committee that the mayor appointed. They work with a more regional organization that you may be familiar with by the name of Snake River Economic Development Alliance. We're a member of, as a city, a member of that organization, and that's what they do is they help find businesses that want to come to Weiser or are interested in coming to Weiser. They work with our committee when they find someone, to make that happen. I can tell you that it's an excruciatingly long and frustrating experience trying to get a business to come into your community, whether it's Weiser or where it's at. You know, we're also, you know, I agree with Katie that, you know, that maybe the city's not the flag bearer in economic development, but because of the utilities that we provide, we need to be a part of that. So trying to keep those at am I out of time?
No,
Sorry. Because of that, you know, the cheaper we can make our utilities, the more, you know, the greater the possibility that we can attract business to town to support, you know, a growing population. Now I'm out of time.
Linda, if I could say something, I need a 14-year-old to really help me do electronic devices. But if it goes off in your mid-sentence or mid-thought, please go ahead. Don't. I'm not going to throw some.
Worms.
Well, I trust everyone here. Yeah.
Well, there's been a lot spoken about, and I think Herb was not a contingency plan, a comprehensive plan.
Okay, you're right.
Help you out. Yeah, the comprehensive plan was just redone, and the planning and zoning ordinance matched those. So you have to be very, very careful and very studied as to how the city grows. Your taxes from a new house coming online doesn't come to the city for, it could be a year and a half, just depending on when they come in. So can the city afford these houses for the fire department, the water and sewer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you know, all of the services that are required. So you have to be very careful about your growth to not overstep what you can actually manage. And promoting growth, you're going to, you know, cleaning up the downtown would be a long way in doing that. But, you know, like Carrie said, those old buildings are difficult. So, but I think that we can do some things to promote people coming into town off of the highway and get them to stop. Thanks.
Linda, I have a question of our school board member as far as growth, whether growth of the schools. Are you aware of any of the challenges that growth is currently having a problem with, or that the school board's trying to address, or that you would address?
You know, I know just from having my own children in school that, you know, there is a growth. I believe last year, there were the most students that had ever been in the high school, and they were really kind of busting at the seams. You know, my kids talked about walking down the halls and just being shoulder to shoulder with kids. I don't know. I think it's great that people are coming into our community with kids. You know, not just retired people coming in, because I think we need kids in our community to keep everything going. And you know, I'm not sure about how we house all those students. You know, I think there's probably going to need to be some updating of buildings or construction or entirely new school, possibly, and that will take a lot of community support.
Okay. The next one is for the Weiser City Council. Weiser seems to have gone downhill in the last 4 to 5 years. The streets have more trash, neighbors don't clean up their property, and theft is common. And the question is, what can you do to help in these issues?
I'll start on that one. I've lived here since we bought our house 2017. I moved here full-time 2018. And I can tell you that is true and false in a lot of ways. I've seen a lot of the old houses that were unlivable brought back to life. And most of those people doing that are people like me who've moved here from out of town and saw the opportunity and decided, wow, this is a great place to live. I want to build my life here, and I want to invest in my community. And the first place you start is your home. But we've also seen some of the rental properties that have been sold to people who, though they want to own a home, they don't have the capacity to maintain a home. We have neighbors like that. They bought a house that was a rental. The renters took great care of it, and the owners just don't seem to care. And there's a lack of enforcement, I think, in our city ordinances about animals, about overgrown lawns, about just upkeeping your house and being a good neighbor. And I think the first place you need to start is talking to your neighbor and offering help. And as I've talked to our mayor about that, and he said, I have a neighbor who never mows their lawn. I offered to have it done for him, and they refuse. So there are those people who just don't care. And you're going to get that in any community, whether it's Weiser, whether it's Boise, whether it's Scottsdale, Arizona. But it's all about how it's enforced. And you won't see the challenges we have here in Weiser in, say, Scottsdale, Arizona, because they enforce the codes and the ordinances.
So yes, I agree, we need to enforce the existing ordinances. We do have a few houses around town that I would hate to be neighbors to. The garbage is. Weiser does offer a dump truck. They'll bring it to your property and take it and dump it when we've used that at our business before. Angel Wings has used it to clean up around there, so that is available, and it can be a big help. As far as the theft, I don't know how much of that we really have. We were robbed, our business was robbed about 12 years ago, and it was, to me, it looked like a very professional job. The way they moved in and worked all night and cleaned out our welding equipment, all tools and everything. But the Weiser police was on the job the next morning as soon as we called. Detective Hall worked on that case for 24 hours straight, and the next morning he had cracked the case. I don't know that the arrest was made right away the next morning. But yeah, we need that kind of work. We need a police department that continues to respond when they're called, because that doesn't happen everywhere, and get right on the case, and that is a big deterrent of crime, in my opinion.
I don't really have anything brilliant to say, just to reiterate what these guys have said. I think it starts at home, taking pride in your own home. We do have things called personal property rights though too, so we can't overstep and insert ourselves where we're not wanted, and we all know about that as well. But like, I walk across my parking lot every day as I go into the bank, and there's always ATM papers and trash on the ground, and I pick it up. My hands wash every day. You know, I'm not above that, and I think that's one thing that we can model for kids, for adults, for any of our employees and things like that. I do think that during the city council meetings that I've attended, you get a good report from the police department as to what they have gone out on for that month, and how many calls they have, and I do think that they do a good job, and it may be, leaning a little more, hey, we've seen this in this area, but I do think that you guys all do a great job of hopping on Facebook and warning your neighbors, hey, we've seen so-and-so walking around doing this, watch out for this. I think that's the best way to probably kind of help ourselves out with that. I do agree that the ordinances need to be enforced. If we have them there for a reason, then we need to be prepared to enforce those as well. So, thank you.
job, Katie. We were down, one ordinance officer retired in July, and it took a little time to get the new one up, but, you know, the police department chief, you know, he did a good job. He had other officers doing the ordinance officer until they hired a new one. Some properties, you just work your tail off on it, and on my side, on the fire side, and then I've been called many times to document and testify, go to court, when we issue tickets to people and that, and they'll clean it up, they'll make the progress, and then they just die, and they're back the next year doing the same thing. So I mean, it's repeat offenders, most of them in this town that I've been on. Clean up the city and that, we do a really good job. We have alley cleanup going on right now. Not a lot of cities do alley cleanup. A lot of cities don't do any leaves. You know, the city does a lot to spruce up this community, and a lot of our people do not take advantage of it, just like Herb said, the adopt-a truck. We got 7 of them now, and most of them are out, you know, from March until October, you know, and they do a great job, but, you know, it just seems like the ones that need it don't call it, you know. Even I could contest about 3 years ago, we had a big deal where a neighbor called adopt a truck for his neighbor, and they went fisticuffs, and there was actually citations issued on both sides of that fence line. So explain that in court, you know. So we're trying, you know, to do everything we can. You know, when I was a fire chief and that, and the building and the code officials, so we just need a lot, you know, like I said, we need more code officials and things that to enforce the codes. But we have a great city.
I don't have a ton to add what has already been said. You know, I think the one of the things that we can do to I think was mentioned about affordability for keeping your the grounds in your house up. That will improve if our economy improves. The city has put more strength in the ordinance regarding cleaning up your property, where in extreme cases we can actually have the city crews clean up your property and charge you and add it to your property taxes. So there are some teeth now in our ordinances, so the thing that I would ask is it needs to be everybody's job to keep our properties up. In those instances, if you're aware of egregious properties, call City Hall and tell us. I guarantee you we'll go out and look. And let's just all work together and, as a matter of pride for our community, make it better.
I'm kind of in a tough spot. They've all said everything. We do have a new ordinance enforcement officer, and I think she's doing a great job. I do think we need to clean up all these old vehicles that are, some houses look like a wrecking yard, and I don't think that should be allowed. But I do think that as you encourage neighbors to clean up, and then it's kind of catching. One neighbor cleans up and the other neighbor, and then unfortunately there are people that are never going to clean up and you're not going to do anything about it. I mean, it's just the fact of life. As far as thievery, I don't know. I think the rec department does a tremendous amount in the schools about keeping the kids occupied. And the things that I hear going at night sometimes are kids out doing stuff unsupervised and in the middle of the night when they have no business being out. But I think the more that our schools and our rec department engage all these kids, then there's less issues of them being out on the streets.
Okay. We have another question. This is for City Council, and this is concerning the animal shelter. To what extent should the city be involved in an animal shelter, both fiscally, or financially and fiscally? All the city, and this is for all the City Council candidates.
Should start over on the other side, or Susan.
Yes.
Poor me. Okay, well, you know, the majority of the animals that are in the animal shelter, that would be in an animal shelter, are from the city. Right now, we have people that are housing an enormous number of cats and dogs in their homes, and that is just not right. The city needs to step up, figure out a way to get an animal shelter going. We just can't keep saying, well, it should go to the county. Well, it should go. I mean, passing the buck gets you nowhere. You just got to stop passing the buck, take the bull by the horns, and figure out how to resolve it. And that's it. Thank
you. The animal shelter has come up at times, and we've struggled to address that, and quite frankly, I guess I'd be open to suggestions about what specifically to do and make a plan together. It is a problem, and I will tell you the committee that's working on it is, it has been very good, and there's a lot of information that they put together that I don't know if you'd be surprised to hear all of it, and I wish I had more than 90 seconds, but I was surprised to hear different ways to control animals that don't have a home. And so I think we just need to continue to work together and come up with a plan, and certainly I think the city needs to have a seat at that table and help with a solution.
Not real versed in the animal shelter questions, wasn't involved in it much. I just know that the animal shelter over by the rural fire station is always full. I go over there occasionally with a truck at that time with Officer Green, and use my pressure washers off of my truck to help clean out what's there, and they're always full. So I mean, that's why we have these adoptions out and that for the people to take care of them. I really would like to hear more from Larry and his committee that he talks to about, you know, our alternatives of what we need to do. Because like I said, I'm not the well-versed one on that one, so sorry, but thank you.
Well, I think the city definitely needs to have a place at that table too to discuss that and help promote it, and to financially back a portion of it as well. Like Susan said, it is in our city, and most of the dogs are in the city limits, and so I would love to be a part of the solution to that too. I love animals. Chuck has he worked great for me when I had a dog who loved to just leave the property and go run all over town. So I understand when that kind of things happen, and when we have ordinance officers who are nice and sympathetic and can help address those situations and help us. But we definitely do need an animal shelter and a proper place to put it and some financial backing for it.
So I believe that the people behind the animal shelter move are definitely a group who are doing it out of love, because they love their animals. They don't want to see animals suffer. And I think this can be done. They are a 501c3. They do have their tax exemption, so we can all jump in and help financially. The city currently has the pound downtown. We have a budget in place for an officer, a control officer, and possibly we can join forces with this group. I think the city also might have a piece of property that they're looking at, maybe out by the airport, that would probably pass planning and zoning. I'm not sure of all this, but I think the city can be a partner in this. I think it's something that we all can be proud of, because I don't know anybody that doesn't love their pets, that doesn't love their animals. So I think we can join together and do a great job.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with Sue about the amount of cats people have, because some people have 10 kids in their house. I find that sometimes more offensive than 5 or 6 cats. I'm kidding. But as long as the cats are inside, controlled, the animals are inside, controlled in the yard, I have no problem with it as long as they're not infringing on my property rights and ruining my life and my way of life. But the problem we have is these dogs, and not yours, Katie, because I know you take care of yours. But it seems like it's the same dog over and over and over who gets out. It's the same group of cats that are breeding under cars on Court Street. It's the same people over and over that their dogs are in the pound, they get them. And once again, there's no enforcement of the rules and the ordinances that we have. That's a big word late at night. I do agree we need some kind of a shelter. I don't agree with taking it out to the country, to the county, because it is a city problem. It needs to be here, but not in the city limits. It could be outside industrial property, easy to get to, easy to access. And like it was mentioned about the city and the pound and the money we have for that, that could be transferred over. So there is a solution, but the solution is people taking responsibility for their own animals and being good neighbors, first and foremost, because that is what really controls an animal population.
Okay. I have a question for Andrea.
Yay!
Great. Okay. As a teacher, what do you wish the school board would have considered?
Sorry, would have considered?
Would have considered, or would consider, with your experience as a teacher?
I'm not really sure how to answer that. Would have considered, I don't know why, I'm overthinking this maybe. As a teacher, I don't know. I felt like the school board did a great job when I was a teacher. I appreciated the administration that I worked for. I trusted them. I thought, we had a couple different levies that had passed during my time that were put to good use. I wish that the Pioneer teacher parking lot would have been paved, but that was very minor. I would see school board members in the hallways of the schools sometimes, so they actually would come in and see what was going on in classrooms, and I appreciated that. I don't know that there's anything I needed more from them specifically, from the school board. More money from the state, maybe, but.
Okay, on the same card, there's one for the city council. What are the city's greatest assets? That's one part of the question. And what is its greatest challenge? Now, for those who are not yet on the school board or the city council, that's kind of.
That's a good question. Sure.
I know our greatest asset. What is it? I'll start with that one.
Okay,
Since we started with Sue last time.
go ahead.
Our city's greatest assets, coming from a city that didn't have great assets on the other side of the world here, we have incredible city services here. I think that's one of our best assets we have. Our lights stay on. There's a storm, they go out, they're on like in 2 seconds later. Never seen it. We've got affordable utilities here. We've got affordable and constant garbage pickup. We've got the Adopt-A-Truck program. Our city services are the greatest assets we have in this city. Because if you've lived without them, if you've lived elsewhere, it's amazing when you come here. I mean, having your garbage picked up twice a week, that is one of the biggest things I've ever seen. I'm used to having to drag a barrel across the road, 50-mile-an-hour trucks, once a week. If we're lucky, they picked it up. I think that's a great asset. Our city employees, they answer the phone. They answer questions for you. They're there for you. You can walk in, you can know who they are. I think that's our biggest asset we have, our city services and the people that run those services. And our biggest downfall right now, I think we are really a city kind of like at a tipping point. We can go either way. We can lose our small town feel and develop 400 houses and keep selling off our land and annexing it in, or we can build within, keep it small, keep it vibrant, and keep it Weiser.
My answer's going to be quite a bit shorter. Our greatest asset is definitely our people, the citizens of Weiser, and I agree, we have a great staff at the City Hall. Couldn't ask for better people. They're well-trained. We need to make sure that we take care of them and keep them, because it's not easy to replace good employees. So definitely they are our assets. All of the people of Weiser are our assets. When you come to a town like Weiser from a big city, I hear this all the time. They're not used to people saying, "Hi, how are you?" Smiling, waving, being friendly. Yeah, and that's what we find here. And I have to ditto our growth is probably our biggest challenge. It's going to happen, but let's make sure that we control it and do it right. Make sure we don't let it outgrow the services that we have.
Not acceptable to just say ditto. So but I agree wholeheartedly with what Herb has said. The people of Weiser are the best asset that we have. We've got great department heads in place right now who are empowered to do their jobs, feel like that they have some ownership in Weiser, and I think that's what everybody feels like in the city of Weiser, like we own this town, like this is ours. So we want to make sure that it is taken care of, and I would say our growth is probably, we're kind of at a point where we need to make sure that we're still taking care of business before we're adding a whole bunch of stuff. So that's my 2 cents.
I agree with the previous people that went ahead of me. It's like Herb said about the safest city in Idaho, being proclamation of that. And it was one of our deals. City services are people taking care of each other, watching out for everything and that. But when you go to the city halls and that, they're perfect. I mean, we keep up on our training for the police department. We have the Van Dome here. Every quarter there's police departments that come from all over the state. Oregon also. We've had some from Texas that do these trainings, and we got some national training coming in. That's a big thing for us. It really shows us how our city's built and how these people are just really amazed. With fire stuff, same with us. Every year in January, February, we, the fire department at that time, hosted the SRV, which is 28 departments in the Western Fraser Valley. And they all come here for the Chiefs Association. And they just love our city. They love, what we do. And, our fire department, they keep up on their training. They retain their 4 in their last classification. Not many cities in Idaho have 4, So, I mean, we're all going in the right direction to keep this town and our community safe, happy, and lucky. Our downfalls is no one's won the lottery yet and donated the money yet, because money makes it go around a little bit easier. So, but we're doing a great job in budgeting, let me tell you, with a lot of it. So, thank you.
Boy, we're glad I get to go almost last on this one. I think our greatest asset is our community spirit, and I want to use the example of the National Old Time Fiddlers Contest. Name me another community in this state, in this country, in the world that has supported a world championship for 75 years. on almost entirely volunteer labor. And, you know, you can say, you know, some people that aren't from here can snicker a little bit about the fiddle contest, but I mean, we know what fantastic musicians they are that come here. We know the dedication that goes into it, and it is something that we can take pride in, and I think it sets us apart from everywhere else that I can think of. You know, our concerns is, I guess the biggest concern I have is making ends meet. We have challenges every day. You know, I've said before, you know, I don't think we want to become a metropolis like Meridian, but we also don't want to become a ghost town like Mesa. And finding you know, a point where we can be successful, where we can grow. That's where we want to be.
Yeah, well, Vindom is one of our biggest assets. So we are able to hold all kinds of events here. But in the Fiddle Festival, I was in Pittsburgh not long ago, and an instrumentalist saw where I was from, and he said, "Oh, Fiddle Festival." So he knew, I mean, you can't go anywhere without somebody knowing about the Fiddle Festival. But anyway, the people, I mean, everybody is sad. And when I moved here, people opened their arms and welcomed me in, and it's a fabulous place to live. And that's what draws the new people in, that we are such a loving, caring community. We take care of the kids. We have good programs for the kids. We have good programs for at the senior center. Really, everybody in between is well taken care of. And if anybody is in need, then there are lots of people that jump on board and go help. So being in a small community, you know your neighbors, you know the people downtown, so that's a great thing.
Okay, we have, this is going to be the last question. There are a few that I didn't get to, but I don't think everybody wants to stay here till 10 tonight. So I think this will be the last one. And this is for Andrea. How do we get back to a 5-day school week?
And we're done. I will be honest, I selfishly was for a 4-day school week because I love my kids. I love having them home with me. They're super fun to be around. And my oldest was already gone to college when the 4-day week started, so I just had 2 at home. My older son loved it because it was just an extra day to go golf. And I honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the 4-day week. I don't like that school starts as early as it does, gets out as late as it does. I also coached volleyball. We couldn't start volleyball practice until, almost 4:30, which then puts the kids getting home even later for dinner. And then, and then. I think the 4-day week can be done very well. I think we just need to make some changes. I personally don't, this is probably, I don't know, this will ruffle some feathers maybe, but I don't like homework going home. I just don't. I feel like our kids are already getting home late. The point of having a longer school day was to give, I thought, more time in the classroom So I would like to see teachers using the, you know, the last part of their day or the last part of their period or whatnot as homework. You know, at least at the middle school, high school level, allow those kids to work on the homework while the teacher's in the room to give help if they need it. I don't know. The 4-day week is just, it's interesting. It's weird. I like having 3 days with my kids though. But I know that that's not the case for a lot of our families. They don't have a parent at home. However, our schools are not babysitters either. That's not what they were intended for. They're to educate. So I don't know that we will get back to the 5-day week. I think the number one reason why is because the surrounding schools, or districts like Fruitland, Payette, Cambridge, they're all 4-day weeks. If we went to a 5-day week, we'd have a very hard time getting teachers. I mean, I'll be honest, if I'm gonna go out and get a teaching job and I can drive 15 minutes away and work 4 days a week, I'd probably do it. I wouldn't, because I'm from Weiser and I love Weiser and I would stay here. But, you know, a lot of people, if we're trying to get new people in, it's sure not attractive to come to a 5-day school week when all the surrounding towns are 4.
Okay, we are going to wrap this up. And actually, I have a question. When I worked for the Forest Service and we actually interviewed for selecting candidates for a job. It was kind of funny because I didn't do it, but there was a question that we were supposed to ask everybody. And the question was, what would you bring to a barbecue when you're invited?
What?
That's right. What would you bring to the barbecue?
An appetite.
An appetite. Oh. Well, but I'm not asking. I'm asking the candidate. And really, you don't have to answer that. If you want to, you can.
How long do we have to each to wrap up?
Wrap up. We're
Is there
wrapping
time?
up right now.
Is there,
Yeah.
the candidate gets a chance?
Yeah.
Minute and a half? 1 minute.
No. One item.
Okay, so
What
no
would you
time.
bring to a barbecue?
No time limit.
I'll start as a Forest Service wife. My husband was Forest Service employee for 27 years. I've been his wife for 18 of those. Many barbecues with the Forest Service, and the one item that you were to bring was meat to burn on the grill. And that was always regardless of who was hosting, you always brought meat, because there was never enough meat. And they had what they would call the couth meat, that it would be like a tri-tip or something that was served on a fork, and you would pass it around the circle. It was kind of disgusting. At
Yeah, it
parties.
is.
I know, but you would bring meat, because everybody worked hard, they played hard, and they were usually hungry. And that was the item you always brought to the barbecue. But if it was me and I had a choice to bring something to the barbecue, I would call my hostess first, find out what they needed, what they were providing, and then bring what they needed.
Okay.
One word?
Yeah, one word.
Oh, was it a one word? Meat.
Okay.
My plate.
I'm sorry. I wasn't listening, that's not good.
Watermelon, everybody likes
Drinks. I'm not going to be specific.
World famous macaroni salad.
World famous. Okay.
It's one item, not one word.
She said I.
Whatever my mother tells me.
I would bring cookies.
All right. Well, with that, I want to thank our candidates for coming today. And thank all of you, our voters, for coming also. Just to let you know, this Friday is the last day if you want to request an absentee ballot. And on November 3rd is the last day to vote early. And then on November 7th, that is election day. And everybody be sure to vote. Because it means a lot. Say?
Could I thank everybody about the Little Theater for that?
Yes. Bob would like to come up here. Come here, Bob.
Well, thank you. No, I want to thank everybody to come to the Weiser Little Theater. I don't know if all of you have been in here before. It's got a long history from the first Catholic church in Weiser to the LDS church to the American Legion Hall and the Weiser Little Theater. If anybody would like any more history or to take a look at the facility, we usually do 2 performances a year. You can tell by the pictures here from the last few years. We have a number of actors in the crowd today also. But thank you.
And thank you.